Hey everyone, I'm Aaron here with my identical twin brother Adam. We're going Bash Brother 1, Bash Brother 2. We got a special show today. We've been doing all kinds of special shows. We have Mother's Day, we got a little shout out to our veterans, and now we've got another subscriber, friend of the show, Pete, is joining us today. We're talking A's trivia because Pete's a huge A's fan. It's a rough go this year for the A's, but it's not always been that way. And so we're gonna reminisce a little bit here. You're in a baseball brew, ha ha. Thanks for joining us for a cup of coffee. I don't know if Pete brought his coffee or not, but um, we're enjoying a cup. And before we really dive in here, my favorite question to ask is, I don't think I know this story. Pete, how did you become an A's fan?
My aunt and my grandma on my mom's side had season tickets to the A's in the 70s and in the early to mid 80s. And when they passed away, I inherited a whole bunch of collectibles, programs, the like. And they took me to my first game in the Coliseum in 84 against the Rangers. And I remember at the time both teams were towards the bottom of the standings,
Mm-hmm.
but I just fell in love with the team based on just being surrounded by that with my aunt and my grandma.
There it is. That this is how it occurs, friends. So did you grow up in the Bay Area then?
No, I've lived in Eastern Oregon, North Idaho, Eastern Washington my whole life, but I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of family down in the Fresno area and also the Bay Area.
Yeah. There we go, friends. This is how fandom works. Is we had Ross and Grant on a couple weeks ago, Texas Rangers fans who lived in Idaho. So there you go. Here we go. We're spreading it all over the map. We're gonna dive in here, Adam. What we got on tap for A's trivia?
We've got some good A's teams here. We got which team had the best winning percentage versus the 1988 to 1990 Oakland A's. They had a great run. They reached the World Series, won a World Series, and so we're trying to figure out who was there a team that kind of had their number. So we're getting after it here. So this is inspired again by Pete and his love of the A's. We got nine-time World Series champions, proud franchise. They've been in the news both because they're losing a lot and because of the move to Las Vegas. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Um, but the A's have had some great runs, and we're talking about one of them right now. So here's our question with our answer choices. Which team had the best record against the 88 to 90 A's? Is it the Boston Red Sox, Chicago White Sox, Detroit Tigers, Kansas City Royals, or the Minnesota Twins? Pete, I'm going to pass this one to you first.
Boy, that's a tough question. I was thinking the Blue Jays might be on there because they had some encounters a lot with the Blue Jays during that run. I guess that
Mm-hmm.
was more in the 90s, but um, I'm going to go with the. I think I'm going to go Red Sox.
All right. Well, Pete and I are on the same wavelength right here, and we're gonna hope that's a winning wavelength. I went Red Sox as well. Wade Boggs, Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
You had some good teams, pretty good teams anyway. I mean, they made the series in the old Bill Buckner event in '86. But anyway, had some good teams. I went Red Sox here.
And I'm going to go a little different direction, but I'm sticking with the laundry, but I'm going White Sox. Going White Sox here. The first thing I thought of was Frank Thomas, but I think this is maybe a little before his time.
Yeah,
But
he was a rookie in '90. So
yeah.
yeah.
So well, he was in
Oh
there
no, in
that last
'90,
year.
I think he didn't. He actually wasn't a rookie till like '92. So
Yeah. Well, so I missed the era. Sometimes I get the eras wrong, but the White Sox is where I went. Well, let's take a peek. Let's see what the answer is. The correct answer is the Kansas City Royals.
Wow.
Um, but they didn't exactly have the A's number because no team from 88 to 90, zero teams had a winning percentage, uh, over 500 winning percentage, a winning record against the Oakland A's. The Royals were the best at 487, were 19 and 20 against the A's. The White Sox, a close second at 18 and 21. The Red Sox didn't even make my list of notable notes.
Wow.
That's incredible as far as the A. I mean, a team to be that dominant
Yeah.
that nobody wins over half the games against them. So,
Yeah.
Pete, do you remember that? I mean, obviously they were a dominant team. You don't. I'm sure you don't remember the specifics, but do you remember that being, feeling that dominant during that stretch of games?
Oh, absolutely. I was 8, 9, and 10 during those years, but yeah, I remember growing up wanting to be Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire. I had almost all of the A's starting lineup figures back then, and
Nice.
had good memories.
Yeah. Well, and the A's at that time, their best record against another team was actually against the Yankees, who you might not predict because they're typically very good. They had a 750 winning percentage over that time, 27 and 9. So the A's
Wow.
playing well. So here's our scoreboard. We're keeping it updated for those of you following along. Aaron got a run in the first. We both got shut out here in the second with the A's. So Aaron taking a 1-0 lead into the third inning.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow to see how we do there. So we're going to talk next about some favorites. Translation there is, who are our favorite A's? Pete, you're at the helm today. Kick us off with who are one or two of your favorite A's players?
Oh man, I remember 2012. I think Coco Crisp was one of my favorites. The afro he had towards the end of the second half of the season. They had a dance craze called the Bernie Lean that they came up with in the latter half just to capitalize on the fan interest and how well they were doing. It's hard to pick one, but he's right up there. I really like Josh Reddick. Grant Balfour is another one that I really love. And then from the early 2000s teams, Eric Chavez would be the other one.
Great choices. Great choices. So are you a fan of Moneyball? The movie?
I am a fan of Moneyball. And I think there's a misnotion in the media that I'll get into later that the A's they're small market, they can't afford this and they can't afford that, and they can't sign players to long-term contracts. And I'll explain it a little bit later when we get into Las Vegas. That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
And it's something I think that's stuck, that's kind of outlived itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I asked that question in large part because you mentioned Eric Chavez, and he was part of that sort of Moneyball team that came up in that movie. So, so I know you probably have mixed feelings about I love Moneyball, the movie. I think it's hilarious and fun. Love Jonah Hill in that movie. My favorite player probably is my kind of peak of my baseball fandom in terms of watching players play was in the 90s. And I love playing catcher. So Terry Steinbach is probably my guy. I'm not an A's fan per se, but I loved kind of watching. They were really good, and Terry Steinbach was probably my favorite of that era.
One of the best catchers.
Mm-hmm.
And a fun name to say. I remember when I first read his name on a baseball card, I said Steinbach, and then learned later that that's not how you say his name. For me, I was a middle infielder, so I was drawn to those guys. Walt Weiss is right up there for
Yes.
me,
Yep.
and Mike Gallego.
Yep.
Mostly because of his name, similar to the Steinbach story. I thought it was Gallego, and then when I learned that it was Gallego, I thought that was fancy, and I was like, I like this guy. So,
Oh, love it.
Some great players. Yep.
and I remember, I think I was an A's fan for a little bit,
Yeah.
as a child, mostly because they had the letter A on the hat, and my name starts with an A. So,
Well, and you owned an A's
yeah,
hat.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I was an Angels fan back at the same time because I owned an Angels hat. So that's how we did it.
Yeah, Pete's gets passed down through history. Ours gets passed down through hats. So,
Love it.
Yep.
so here's a little snapshot of the '70s World Series teams here. So,
Oh,
Pete,
yeah.
some good memories, some favorites for some people out there. Probably in this photo too. Well, let's talk a little bit about A's in action here. So this is a little segment to think back on some A's games that were memorable. Pete, what's a game or a highlight or something you remember from all your times watching the A's?
I'm going to have to go back to the 2012 season again and game 4 of the ALDS against the Tigers. And I remember that vividly because I was working that day, following the game on my phone. I came back in the bottom of the ninth, and Detroit was up, if I remember right, by believe they have a 2-run lead, and they had their closer in. I thought, this is it. They're going to shut them out. They're on to the ALCS, and then the A's slowly but surely just mounted a huge rally, and then Coco Crisp ended up hitting a walk-off late in that inning to send it to a game 5. The whole stadium was going crazy. I was jumping up and down in my house. My wife at the time was going, what the heck are you doing? Not knowing what was happening.
Yep. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, for me, one of my memories was, so obviously all you listeners and folks know that Adam and I are Mariners fans. We went to a Mariners game in 1996, and I was just watching the highlight, so I had to remember what year it was. But it was 1996. Mark McGwire hit 2 absolutely massive home runs in the Kingdom. This isn't the huge one off of Randy Johnson that went 538 feet, which they actually don't really know how far it went because it hit the back of the stadium. But Mark McGwire hit 2 home runs off of Mariners pitchers in the upper deck of that game, and it was quite a performance, something to watch, and pretty impressive to see 2 home runs in the upper deck of the Kingdom. Some of you may not know what that's all about. The Kingdom. What is that? What is that place? Well, it doesn't exist anymore. So, anyway, Adam, what about you?
Yeah, and I remember that too. And that left field area, I remember it was called the Cloud Crowd. You'd show up game day and get a $5 seat up in the Cloud Crowd, and you knew that you'd never get any action up there. But that day, it was raining baseballs.
It was double the fun. And the day I was listening to just the little snippet of the broadcast, Jay Buhner hit one up in the Cloud Crowd the day before. So it was just nutty up in the clouds.
Yeah. My memory of the A's that sticks with me the most is the other side of Coco Crisp. Pete, he was a thorn in the Mariners' side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like he always had his best games against the Mariners, and it was so sad to watch and so frustrating. They couldn't get him out. And he would turn into a power hitter against the Mariners too. It felt like hitting home runs, getting on base, stealing bases, scoring runs. It was frustrating.
That's like the Tony Kemp last year
Exactly.
That Tony Kemp was the thorn in the Mariners' side last year for sure.
Yeah. Well, and here we got the history of, we're making our way through some historical moments. Here's the history of A's logos for those who are interested. I was particularly fascinated by the 1920 elephant. Looks like it was drawn by my 7-year-old daughter.
Let's throw that on a jersey.
That is cool. I've got a Kansas City A's cap, and I recognize the KC and
Nice.
the Swingin' A's logo, and I'm just glad you don't have a Las Vegas A's logo up yet.
Yeah. Well, we're holding off as long as we can.
Yeah.
And well, speaking of Las Vegas, I got the Las Vegas lights in the background here. And Pete, you're, as an A's fan, like, we read about this Las Vegas thing in the news, and the deal fell through, and now there's a new deal and whatever. As an A's fan, how are you feeling? What do you know? What are you thinking about this news about Las Vegas?
Well, there's a few things that you need to know. John Fisher, the A's owner, has a net worth of $2.2 billion. He's one of the top 5 richest owners in the game. The A's were also one of the top 5 most profitable franchises over the last few years. Yet he is seeking some other people in the public to pay for a good chunk of the new stadium, wherever it ends up being. And his planning has been dysfunctional at best and very erratic. They spent $100 million trying to secure rights to build a stadium on Howard Terminal, which is off of the bay in Oakland towards the downtown area. And then a couple of weeks ago, randomly out of the blue, they switched gears and announced this land purchase agreement just to the west of I-15 in Las Vegas. And then, as you guys probably know and heard, just a few days ago, they said, oh, wait, we're going to go to one of our original sites we were looking at the Tropicana Hotel. And one of the things that makes this frustrating as a fan, I could probably go on a good 30 minutes, but I don't want to run the show too long. But it's what really needs to happen. John Fisher needs to sell the team to somebody that really cares and wants to keep the team in Oakland.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of offers on the table. Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, has put in an offer to buy the team. Reggie Jackson at one time had an offer to buy the team. But when you strip your team to next to nothing, to the equivalent of a AAA team over the last couple of years, jack up ticket prices, it's kind of a really hard sell for the fans. It's like you're going to your favorite restaurant, let's say Ruth Chris Steakhouse in Seattle, and all of a sudden they decide one day to replace your steak with hamburger helper and raise the price of that entree at the same time.
Yeah.
It just gets to the point where you say enough is enough. And right now, with the current pending site they have at the Tropicana, they're asking for Nevada taxpayers to foot the bill for $395 million of a $1.5 billion retractable roof stadium. And I've seen polls of people in Las Vegas who said, well, we don't want the A's and this crazy dysfunctional owner around. We'd rather have an expansion team. Which my hope in all of this is that things get so bad, and I hate to use the phrase "things get so bad" as an A's fan because it's already pretty bad. But I hope that John Fisher gets backed into a corner and gets forced to sell the team, realizing he can't get a deal done in Las Vegas, and he's lost his leverage in Oakland. The city basically said, "Oh, you go have your site in Las Vegas, and we're going to be done dealing with you because you're just using us as leverage." So I've posted a lot and used the hashtag sell the team, but it's just there needs to be new ownership stepping in badly. In the 80s and 90s, at the peak of the Bash Brothers time when they were top 5 in attendance, the team was owned by Walter Haas, the president and owner of Levi's, and he invested in the team and invested back in the community rather than just putting it all in his pocketbooks. And one other thing too, there's a lot of deadlines coming up with the stadium deal. And on June 10th, they have to have a bill into the Nevada legislature and have to get it passed. And then they also have by the end of the year for that to vote on relocation, which has to get approved by 75% of the owners. And on top of that, Rob Manfred has waived the normal fee for a team relocating, which I forget the exact number, but it's in the millions. Yeah, I don't know if too many teams are really going to be really in favor of the A's getting a handout when they have a $2.2 billion owner.
Oh. Yeah, it's interesting. You talking about that reminds me, different sport and whatnot, but it reminds me of the Seattle Sonics. When Clay Bennett's ownership group took over, it was like they did everything to move the team out to eventually to Oklahoma City, and it just the sort of the circumstances feel so similar there. So it's really unfortunate. So
yeah, and you were talking, Pete, about how they changed the product and ticket prices are up, and we did a show a bit ago about value and like cost of attending at different venues, and then how good is the team. And so you want to go to a game and see your team win, but you also want to be able to afford to go. And we didn't talk about the A's, but the A's are sort of toward the bottom of the list in terms of value because it's one of the more expensive places to go. But the team's not that good, so they, rank low on the list in terms of value and getting, your money's worth there. And so hearing you talk about that, it's just, an interesting situation, and it feels, as you're talking about as a fan, feels like, where's the effort to get people in the stadium? I mean, it's odd. I mean, I'll be there. I'm actually going to a game on Monday and Tuesday of next week. I'm expecting to be the only person in my section when I'm there, and which is so odd for a professional baseball game. You see some of these attendance numbers at 2,500, 3,000 people. It's just seems so foreign.
At the first game back, beginning of the homestand after they made this announcement, they were playing the Reds, and they had signs in the right field seats saying hashtag sell the team, hashtag fishy fisher, hashtag stay in Oakland, all of this stuff in support of Fisher selling and the A's staying in Oakland. Well, there was a home run that was hit, and I don't remember who on the A's. I think it was Ryan Noda. He hit a home run to that section of the stadium. MLB went in after the game, edited the video, cropped out those signs so that nobody else could see it.
Oh, geez.
And it's frustrating because Rob Manfred's kind of encouraging all of this, and it's not stepping in just to do what's best.
Yeah. Well, this is just a wild story that keeps getting better. Well, if you like drama, it keeps getting better. And we're moving on to story time here. So, you know what time it is, folks? It's going to be... Hey, why don't you kick us off with story time? what do you want to leave us with about the A's? Favorite memory, quirky story, funny experience with the A's? Kick us off with story time.
I remember as a kid in 4-H, I put together an exhibit to show at the fair, and it was one of those picture frames with an outline of a baseball field with squares in it for baseball cards. And I remember going to, I can't remember the name of the baseball card shop, but it was in Portland when I went to visit my grandma. And I specifically bought the whole team set of the 74 A's. And so I made this, I put everyone into this frame in their spots. I had Joe Rudy in center field. I had Sal Bando at third. I had Gene Tennis behind the plate. And I took this to the county fair and I won. I got a champion ribbon for it.
That's amazing.
And yeah, that's a really good memory I have. And then shortly afterwards, I took the Joe Rudy card to a baseball card show in Portland and was able to get his autograph. And I still have that to this day.
That's really fun. That's cool. So, yeah, I have a similar story of going to All-Star game and getting an autograph with my kids from Fred Lynn. Doesn't hit the same because I'm not a huge Red Sox guy, but that's pretty cool. I was thinking about for story time, thinking about Pete. So Pete and I, well, Adam and I and Pete, we all met in college, and I had no idea Pete was a baseball fan at all until much later. We would comment back and forth. After we graduated college and moved on about Mariners and A's, and we'd talk a little bit about it, and I'd see Pete posting about the A's and that kind of thing. So I knew Pete was an A's fan, and it's been fun kind of reconnecting a little bit here. Pete, thanks for coming on the show with us as well. It's been super fun to have you. I'll love this, learning about everybody's fandom here and being able to hash it out here on the trivia.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun. Maybe the next show I should do a debate with Ross and Grant over which AL West team's got the best history.
Yeah, we got AL West ties going on here.
Yeah, and which AL West team? We won't include the Astros, but which AL West team has the saddest story?
Yeah,
we've all got a lot of them right now.
Yeah, we're a history of not sticking around is what the whole AL West is.
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, everybody, thanks for joining us today. A special thanks to Stathead and the 3-0 Take, and of course, special thanks to Pete for joining us, taking time away from his precious bedtime and joining us here. So, thanks everybody. We'll be back at it. If you've got a burning question, drop it in the comments below or find us on Twitter at Baseball Brewhaha and tweet at us there. Like and subscribe. We'll be back at it again. Hopefully we'll have some more guests on in the coming weeks, but hope you enjoy the show, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.